I'll do gigs, right? And I've done quite a few, which they will not be able to comprehend that a gay relationship can have the same dynamic as a straight one. They'll be like, what? A man and a man being the same as a man and a woman? No. Which one of you stays in the kitchen all day? Few of those gigs, right, spring to mind, but one in particular, right, because it was, at the time, probably the worst gig I'd ever done. It was about 7 years ago, but it ended up being the best gig I've ever done, right, because I lost all my confidence after it, and I was going to give up comedy, and my agent was like, before you give up comedy, why don't you speak to that nice Irish director loads of people use? And that's how I met my best good friend Paul, because he started directing my shows, and then we became best friends from there. So weirdly, I'm really happy I did a horrendous gig, because I got my best friend out of it. But it was a gig in Halifax in Northern England land, and it was a British Legion gig. Good. You could all book comedy better than the person that booked for that gig. I have no idea why they thought I would be a good shout for that one, right? And I was on stage, right? And I was going all right. And then I started talking about my boyfriend at the time, but I didn't even say, like, anything. It was just kind of relationships jokes. It wasn't anything particularly bummy. And immediately they stopped laughing and just didn't make any noise, almost like uh-oh, I better not laugh. Because if I laugh, people are going to start thinking I'm gay as well. So since they weren't laughing, I thought I'll have to change my tactic here. And I pointed at a guy in the front row and went, "You're right, mate, what's your name?" He went, "Mike." And I went, "Hi, I'm Mike. What do you do?" And he goes, "I'm in the Navy." And when he said that, I'm thinking, I better not say the joke I was going to say originally to that. I'll try and move away from it. It was almost like a comedian equivalent of the floor is lava. It's got so many traps around. And I was like, "Wow, Mike, that's a really interesting job. What made you get into that?" And he goes, "Well, my dad was in the Navy." And I was like, "Oh, great, cool. And what did your other dad work as?" Right? He got fuck all that night. The only laugh was the gremlin in my brain going. After the gig, right, me and the female act left, right? There was a female act on as well. She didn't have a good gig. It tends to be the same thing. If people don't like women, they don't like gay men. You know what I mean? Homophobia, I always think there's a lot of it that is actually just campophobia. It's a fear of femininity. It's like, because you never ever see a homophobe that's a feminist. You know what I mean? You never go, "Oh, I can't stand gay people, but women should be treated with respect." So I waited for her. We walked out after the show, and then Mike was waiting for us to give us some feedback, right? And Mike came up to me afterwards, and he went up to me and he was like, "Oh, he was little, that's why I'm doing that." And he was like, "Listen, mate," and he did, that thing, right? Overcompensation of masculine energy from the neck area, just like, why does nobody take my opinion seriously? People just keep throwing bread at me. It's like, "Listen, mate, I don't mind the gays." And I'm thinking, yeah, of course you don't. With your head bob, and you'd be welcome in my community. And he goes, "But why do you have to tell us that you're gay, mate? Why are you telling us that you're gay? It's fucking boring, right?" And it was basically along those lines, because boring was repeated about 4 or 5 times, right? And I was thinking, I'm not enjoying this conversation in particular, and it's not like I'm ever going to change this guy's mind, so I thought, you know what? I'll just scare him. And I think, as a Glaswegian, right, we've all got a face switch we can do. And that's what I did on him, right? I went, "Listen, mate, right, I'm not telling you that I'm gay, I'm warning you."
feedback was over pretty pronto at that point.
And you've probably had the same thing happen yourself, though, right? You know when you're brave in the moment and then afterwards you start getting scared? So that's what happened, right? I was brave enough at the time, and then afterwards I was ruminating about what he'd said, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I am boring. Maybe I am shit. And that's when I started losing all my confidence. But as I say, that's when I got to meet my best good friend, Paul. So it's a really good thing that it happened. Also, the thing is, I don't know if you work with your best friend. The problem is with working with any friend is you don't tend to get much work done. Like, me and Paul will start writing jokes together, and then one of us will do like a Simpsons quote, and the rest of the day is Simpsons quotes to each other, and that's like one of our in-jokes. Like, we always put Simpsons references in my shows. Like, he's directed all of them, and we always put little Simpsons jokes in, even if the audience don't find them funny. But it's because we have to listen to the show back, and we get to go, that's all good. Tom Hanks jokes as well, because we both love Tom Hanks, because we're both human. I know it's really weird telling people about in-jokes with your friends, because usually when you tell someone an in-joke of you and your friends have, they kind of look at you like, yeah, whatever. But in-jokes are the best type of jokes, right? Because in-jokes are the only type of joke that you can have with someone, and they're special for you, and also they help build a friendship or a relationship with that person. And even comedians, right? No matter how experienced the comedian, how funny they are, they can never do as good an in-joke as you can have with your best friend. And I find that really weird, right? Also, comedians try and do it, right? The one example of a comedian trying to do an in-joke is a thing called a callback, right? If you don't know what a callback is, right, basically, what a comedian will do is they'll mention something earlier in the show and then later call back to it with a joke. And you guys, the audience, right, and that's what we call you in the business part, are supposed to hear this in-joke and be like, oh my Lord. Yeah, me and Paul have actually always wanted to do a call forward, which the opposite of a call back, right? So the funny bit comes first, but there's no meaning for it. And then later you give it some context, just so people get to go, why did you make life difficult for yourself? That was pointless. But it's just because the perception and changing it is quite fun. But yeah, I know it's weird me telling about me and my best friends in-jokes, but I think the only time it's easy to tell someone an in-joke is when it's a nickname, because that's set up like a joke, because you get to go, this person's this, called this because of this. So it's like set up punchline. Like, I've got nicknames myself. My nickname is Larry, because my real name is actually Lawrence. Yeah, I know. I didn't want to call myself Lawrenstein because I didn't want people knowing I was gay before I got on the stage. And I says this to my pals, right? And my pals were like, oh, cool. And now they all call me Gary, short for Gay Larry. It's not the best nickname though, right? My group of mates, right, one of them's called Rachel, and Rachel's nickname is Doorbell because she's got no knockers. But that's the kind of banter you have with your friends. If you love your friends, you can slag them off a bit and they don't mind because they know your intentions are good. Me and my partner, we don't do nicknames. No, we just do arguments. And